Hello folks, this is Scott with Dallas Paint Correction and Luxury Microfiber here in Dallas, Texas. What I'm about to talk to you about is, we're going to get back to auto detailing, but something very powerful happened to me over the last 24 hours, so I want to talk about it real quick. We'll get back to auto detailing. It has to do with the last video I put up about me sharing my personal experience, my personal life with you in a very difficult time that I had in my life about 5 years ago. The reason why I needed to make this video, please excuse me, it's starting to get dark, but this is really important to me. There were many who wrote me emails yesterday, called me, texted me, thanking me for discussing my life. Thank you for listening. There were 18 emails that I received yesterday out of the countless emails that I received that I want to address tonight before I say goodnight to all of you. There were 16 men and 2 women who sent me emails that were very powerful, very touching. They told me that they had struggled with the thought of suicide. Some of them have actually attempted it, and thank God they weren't successful, and they continued to struggle with that. What I'm about to tell you is how I dealt with my own pain about 5 years ago. I am not a doctor, I am not a physician, I'm not a counselor. If you are suffering, are going through a really tough time and you're contemplating suicide, you need to see a doctor, you need to see a physician, you need to reach out to someone, a loved one, a friend, a co-worker. Do not go through this process alone. What I'm going to tell you is how I dealt with my own pain. It's going to be a little silly, might even be a little funny during this period of time, if pain can actually be funny. I'm going to tell you how I dealt with my own pain. 5 years ago was a very painful experience for me. It lasted for about a year. I'm going to tell you what I have learned. I don't know if this will be helpful to you, but if it is, that's awesome. 5 years ago was a very lonely period, a lonely point, a low point for me really in my life. I was alone. I actually found myself on my hands and knees and crying like a baby. During those moments I was alone. No, I did not think about killing myself, but when I was in those positions, when I was in that position of crying and on all fours, I actually said out loud to anybody who was listening, get me off this planet, I can't do this anymore. Folks, I struggled this way for about a year. I finally had to say enough is enough. What do I do with my personal pain? How am I going to deal with this? Everything I'm trying isn't working. What I ended up doing, I will share it with you. I don't know if it will help you. What I ended up doing was looking at my pain and actually thanking it. Some of you might be saying, wait a minute, you're thanking your pain. I'll tell you my experience. The minute I looked at my own pain and started thanking it for being in my experience, it was really interesting what happened. It was almost as if my pain looked at itself, put its hands on its hips, and looked at me and said, are you crazy? Why are you thanking us? What I ended up doing, folks, was very interesting. I started to shift my experience with my own pain. I thanked it for being in my experience. I had no idea what I know now, looking back at that moment. What was actually happening to me is I was beginning to rebirth the new me, a much more powerful me. And what was happening was that a lot of things were leaving my experience. It was very painful. What I didn't know then, what I do know now, is that things needed to leave for the new me to come into play. The new me was bigger, and it needed room to be able to enter my experience. I want to give you an analogy that's kind of funny. It was kind of interesting that I look at it this way now. It's like a woman finding out she's pregnant. She's tears of joy. She's jumping into the arms of her husband and into the arms of her lover and going, we're pregnant, we're going to have a baby in 9 months. She carries this baby for 9 months. She tells her husband, she tells her lover just before the birth, she says, you know what? I'm going to give birth and I'm going to do it naturally. I don't want any pain pills. I don't want any pain medication. She gets into the bed. She's getting ready to have the child. She has her first contraction. And she goes, oh my God, I can't do it. This is too painful. I can't do it. She looks at the nurse and she says, if somebody doesn't give me an epidural, I'm going to tear this room apart. Folks, sometimes when you're going through a very painful experience, what I found myself doing was self-identifying with my own pain. I started to allow it to, I started to believe that that pain was me. I started to self-identify with it. I started to think that this is the way Scott was always going to be. When I started to thank my own pain, shift my experience with that pain, I actually walked around and started to find strength in those moments of pain. What do I mean by that? I'd walk around and say, if I'm going to be the saddest guy that I know, I'm going to do it the best way possible. I'm going to rock sadness. I actually looked at my pain and I said, if you're here for 5 pounds of flesh, why stop there? Take 10 pounds. Rip me in half. Again, it was like my pain looked at itself and looked at me and go, I think this guy's crazy. No, I was shifting my perspective of pain. I felt like everything that I was losing that was so dear to me was leaving my experience, and it was so painful. What I didn't know then, that I know now. For the new me to emerge, the much more powerful me to come into play, the things that no longer served me needed to leave my experience. If you are struggling with depression, if you're struggling with the idea of maybe killing yourself, committing suicide, you need to reach out to somebody, you need to talk to somebody. I wanted those 18 emails that I read last night, I wanted you to know that I feel you, I see you, I love you, I even shed a tear for you. I didn't know any other way to do it, so I made peace with it. I stopped judging the pain. The minute I stopped judging the pain, I started to feel it leave my experience. It wasn't so painful. It was almost like there was two of me. One who was having the pain and one who was observing the pain. The one observing the pain says, I will no longer judge you for being in my experience. Sit with me. You want to have dinner with me? Let's talk it out. I started to see strength within myself during a very, very difficult time. The new me was birthing, and what needed to go were the things that were no longer serving me. When I started to let them go, I almost felt like I was turning my back on a child. Little did I know at that time, but I do know now, the birthing of me needed space, because what was coming was going to be bigger than I could imagine, and it needed to push out which was no longer serving. Hang in there. The pain is a birthing process to the new you, a much more powerful you. Get through it, talk to somebody, let somebody love you through the process. Don't judge your pain. If that helps you, it helped me. Get ready for the new you. Just like that woman who's lying in the hospital bed. This is too painful, but she knows what's coming is going to be such a great joy. It's going to change her life forever. That's what's happening to you. In my opinion, it was happening to me, and I watched it. In order for the new me to be birthed, there had to be a little bit of pain. I had to look at it. I didn't deny it. I thanked it for being in my experience. I no longer judged it. And then the new me came in. Once the new me came in, which was very interesting, it looked at me and it says, do you remember that pain? Of course I do. Well, as that pain was leaving and the new you was coming in, it handed me a set of keys. I said, what are the keys to? The keys are to the door that you've been pounding forever. All the new hopes, the new dreams, the amazing adventures coming. Your pain handed us the keys to that door. My new me has a little bit of a personality. After all, it was always me. It put the key in the lock, and before it turned it looked at me and it said, I love you, but you're such a pain in the ass. We could have done this so long ago. I said, turn the key. I'm ready for the new me. Hang in there. I love you. The new you that's coming, the birthing of the new you through this moment of pain is going to be bigger than you could imagine. I love you. We'll get back to auto detailing. I needed to acknowledge those 18 people. I heard you. I felt you. I am with you. Reach out to somebody. You reached out to me. If it gets really, really hard, you got to talk to somebody. We'll get back to auto detailing in the next video. I love you all. Thanks for sitting through my story. But I faked my pain. How crazy is that, right? And all of a sudden, the new me started to come into play. I saw strength in my weakest moment. It's almost as if the new me needed to see a little power in me during the toughest part of my life to go, he's ready. The new you is coming. Sometimes pain is just the birthing of the new you. I love you all. I'll talk to you soon.